From the center of the galaxy, this is ForceCenter, show about Star Wars pop culture and the ultimate adventure, couch cotton. That's right, I'm Ken Knapsack.
I'm Joseph Scrimshaw, and I'm sitting on a chair, but my heart is on a couch at Star Wars Celebration in Japan. It's a very conflicted time for my heart.
It is. Hey, we are going to discuss day one Star Wars news, some of the biggest probably to come out of the con. We, as you can tell, and Joseph just mentioned, we are not in Japan, unfortunately. A lot of FOMO just from the bar photos and videos I'm seeing. But we are happy to be covering the news here and talking about all the stuff that emerged on just day one. Before we do that, as always, I want to remind you today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Kindle, or MP3 player. We are recommending Shadow of the Sith by Adam Christopher, who, of course, has a new book on the way, part of the announcements this week from the Star Wars world. Download your free audiobook today by going to audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Again, that's audibletrial.com/ForceCenter for your free audio book. We also have a big ask and an update, Joseph.
Just like that buff hut in the Mandalorian and Grogu that we will talk about. We have a big ask. Our big ask is to reach 10,000 followers on YouTube. We have been getting closer and closer. If you are we're at, as I look at this, 9,905 today. If you are primarily a podcast listener, we are excited to have anybody join us in any means they can. If you are astral projecting this somehow, beautiful. Thank you. If you could still click that follower button on YouTube, it would be great to crack that 10,000 number. Along those lines, we've been enjoying doing a lot more live streams, which are also then making available as podcast episodes, right?
Yes.
We're doing a live stream Star Wars Celebration wrap-up Q&A on Monday the 21st at 10 a.m. So again, if you're like mostly listening to podcasts, but kind of want to check out a little bit more what we're doing on YouTube, that's a great time to jump on. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, the bell, whatever other symbols YouTube has added to clarify. I don't know.
Yeah. Just so we'll be in your life forever. That's what we need. No, it'll be a lot of fun. Yeah, Monday, 10 a.m., a little earlier for us to go live. It's going to be fun because it's going to be a lot to recap on just a 3-day convention, and I got to be honest, when I heard that, I had this little, Chicago's 5 was maybe one too many, though the final day was a great day. 3 seems so small, 4 seems right, but they packed a punch already, Joseph. This is a big first full day.
Yes. I think I said 10 a.m. Central because I just reverted to my Midwest roots. 10 a.m. Pacific is the live stream, just for clarity.
You're right. You did. That's good.
10 a.m. Pacific. You can take the boy out of Minnesota, but apparently you can't take the time zone out of the boy. Anyway, very excited about this. Ken, I have to admit, I'm not really feeling, in the spirit of Star Wars, I am not feeling FOMO, because FOMO is fear of missing out. It's, potentially irrational. I'm feeling knowledge of missing out, COMO, of I'm aware that I would like to be there partying with people. Yeah. But it's been really nice to just embrace that and be ready for CouchCon and be ready to experience this in a different way, to not only see people's fun photos of Japan, but exactly when this news was going to drop. Yesterday, while I was working away on editing the film, I added Japan to my list of world clock things on my phone. Same. So I could just check, because he's like, okay, I'm not attempting this math every 5 minutes. Yeah. And that in itself was kind of a fun experience. So I wanted to talk about, start by just talking about the personal adventure of where were you when you heard all the news that we're going to talk about? And were you following along actively on social media? What was your adventure?
Yeah, I was. And I did the same thing. I was in my car yesterday doing the 17 hours plus, so, and I went all the way to trigonometry in high school. That all left my brain. And I was just like, You know what? There's a world clock option that I'm just going to have up. And so that's what it was. I was live on my show, The Blathering, yesterday. Hey, check it out, folks. We got some Force Center friends who hang out over there, too. A lot of fun. And I could tell the panel had begun and news was coming out right up top because the buzz of my phone and the vibration on the table started to go. Paul Denuzzo, PLD Project's own Paul Denuzzo, was first. Alden. Then I started texting Alex, but I know he and Molly were, getting stuff out and working. So I switched over. As soon as my show ended, I kind of went to Alex on Blue Sky, and then that's how I got kind of the Gosling of it all. And then later on in bed, they were showing some of the stuff live. I watched the animation panel until they cut away, and so that was kind of fun. And there was a lot of folks in the Force Center Discord. Shout out to Gwen and Jared Cozell and all the people who were just kind of up and waiting for the announcement of a new show. And then when they cut away, when David Collins did all right, see you live stream audience, boo. But then that's when I switched to Alex's social and was doing the refresh. Like, come on, Alex, type faster. And the news came out. So it was fun.
Yeah, I had a similar, slightly different experience of once I got the world clock and did the math, I was like, oh man, the panels are going to start right before this film I'm going to. I went to the Egyptian theater, and there is a documentary that it started out as a Kickstarter project that I backed many years ago called I Know Catherine, the Log Lady, about Catherine Coulson, who played the Log Lady in Twin Peaks, but was also helped David Lynch tremendously make his first film, Razorhead, and then went on to be an important camera person, first assistant camera, which I know a lot about now. And worked on Wrath of Khan in particular. And there's lots of fun shots of her. Like, how far is the lens from Ricardo Montalban's chest so that we know it's in perfect focus at all times? But so it's this big screening of documentary sold out at the Egyptian. Obviously, she is her own person, but also she was deeply connected to David Lynch, and there is still is such a coming together of community around anything David Lynch. So I realized, like, oh, the screening is going to be just about starting when news actually is breaking. So I was seated in this theater, surrounded by Twin Peaks fans, multiple people dressed as the Log Lady from Twin Peaks, and then like, okay, it's weird to kind of jump between worlds, as it were, but I'm gonna refresh and look at Alex's feed on Blue Sky, and I did, and I got. This is when all the news broke about Star Wars Starfighter, and here we saw a buff hut, blah, blah, just like this quick boom download of all this information. And I felt like kind of weird being in these two worlds. And then I looked up and a guy was walking down the aisle with like a jean jacket that had a huge picture of Palpatine on the back.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, okay. I can walk in both worlds right now.
Yeah. He who walks in both worlds. That's a jean jacket with a Palpatine on. That sounds like all the kids in my junior high who had jean jackets with Metallica patches and Lynch Mob patches.
Yeah, I think he knew. Yeah. And then the film was great. Sarah and I went out to eat at Bordner's, the restaurant that teleports you to the smokehouse in the film La La Land. Got home, stayed up late, and was actively like, okay, the animation panel is happening. I'm not going to bed.
Yeah.
And yes, when Alex was typing like, oh, they're going to show us an episode of Tales of the Underworld. It's like, well, damn it. That's going to take at least 12 minutes before I get any 15 minutes before I get any news.
Yes.
And it was really, really great. I was really thrilled with the information.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I did the same math where I was like, all right, I'll do 11 minutes of some other video. Let me do a Daily Show clip or something. I'll come back to Alex's feed again.
But huge thanks to everybody who is providing information. But of course, our friend Alex Damon, Star Wars Explained on Blue Sky. Really, really great to have him on Blue Sky because I'm not going on X these days. Yeah. All right. Shall we dive in?
Let's dive in. We got a lot of Star Wars news to discuss. So take us through all the big hits, sir.
Yeah. So I wanted to start with the animated show. It is maybe not the biggest
Hmm.
news technically because hey, more people go to a movie theater. But to be perfectly honest, it is the news that I think is the biggest surprise. Depending on what rumor sites you read, it was a surprise to me, and I'm really excited for this. So, are you excited for Maul Shadow Lord? And if so, why?
Tremendously. Just so happy for Sam Witwer to get into Star Wars. He seems like he really loves it. No, I'm very excited for this. And this was, yeah, speaking of rumor mills and stuff, this was, this is one of those whispered things, but you never know until something's official. And quite frankly, when Tales of the Underworld got announced, I was like, are just some of the rumors intertwined, and we don't know what is
Mhm.
what. So this was both, oh yeah, but also, oh yeah, okay, surprise, here we go. And I
Mhm.
love the logo. Metal, man. That's a metal logo right there. Maul, Shadow Lord. I love everything about it. And we'll talk about some of the whys behind that, but just on the surface, they so have my trust. Star Wars animation, and this was a panel celebrating 20 years of Star Wars animation. They so have my trust that even if I am like, and this is not the case with the show, but Bad Batch was,
Mhm.
every time it delivers in ways I did not expect. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, I had the same reaction. Like, I did really want a Path show, but I
Hmm.
kind of expected them to do the unexpected
Yeah.
after the Bad Batch. And there was something about this. I didn't heard any of those rumors or scoopers, and I'm glad I didn't because hey, actually being surprised is a joyful thing to me. The announcement of something that I didn't expect is kind of what I expected, and that was a really nice feeling. But it's so in the tradition of both the Clone Wars and Bad Batch of their time when they're announced, they both had a feeling of like, well, but why? We
Hmm.
already know those stories.
Hmm.
The Star Wars fandom was, not as interconnected. A lot of the people that I know who love Star Wars were kind of had washed their hands of it because of the Gen X prequel anger.
Hmm.
But the Clone Wars animated series itself was like, but didn't we just finish this story and don't we know what happens? Anakin falls to the dark side. So,
Hmm.
um, and then Bad Batch, it was kind of a different thing of like, oh, there's so many threads they could pull, and they're just kind of gonna do the funny A-Team riff. And don't we
Hmm.
know everything about that era? Okay. And I think those are two great examples of animation taking what seems like a chunk of story or a character or an era that fans think they know and say, no, 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 no. There's room for a million different stories. Dave loves to tell that story where George tells him Anakin's going to have a Padawan, and Dave, being a fan, goes, Anakin doesn't have a Padawan, and George saying, yes, she does.
Yeah.
And that conversation feels like the ethos of the entire Lucasfilm animation of like, there's always a story to be told. There's always more depth to be explored. Do you think a character is one dimensional? They are not.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in years past, many years ago, I would have been like, yeah, I mean, Maul, he's just been stewing in his anger for for decades. Okay, what's there to tell? I trust that I have ideas of what there is to tell, but I also trust the animation team that they have a ton that they want to tell and make Maul even more multifaceted.
Yeah, no, well said. And in that panel, I believe Athena Portillo said at one point of the idea of just she doesn't like saying no, just like more of that George Lucas idea of like why not, and
Hmm.
yeah, let's explore it. And Maul has become such a multi-layered character in so many ways. He's still Maul of the core, but that core is pretty complicated, and that core has a lot of things to explore. So all of it's going to work here, I think.
Hmm. Yeah, I got excited about it. Also, just there's all that sort of the analytical stuff and the modern Star Wars fandom in the
Hmm.
discussion perspective. But it's also for me, I really had a flashback to 1999 and
Yes.
being so excited for Darth Maul. I dug in my closet and I got out this hat that I got in 1999. This is my
Nice.
Sith Lord
Nice.
hat that for the
Yes.
majority of 99 and 2000 I wore backwards like Axl Rose, and on the back it says Jedi do not concern me.
There you
Very,
go.
very cocky. Very
Just
cocky thing for a person who's got his ass kicked by several different Jedi over the years, for Maul to say.
Uh,
But it felt like, we kind of know the Maul story of, well, he was supposed to be this sort of brutal tool and this really obvious savage image of evil. That's
mm,
what a Sith is. And then George cut him in half to make sure that we knew he was dead. And then George was like, wait, actually. And fans were bummed that he was only in the film so little and said most of his lines already in the trailer. And then to, bring him back in the Clone Wars and give him all of these dimensions. Bringing him back feels like a victory lap for the character of Maul.
mm.
It feels like a victory lap for animation, because at this point he's kind of an animated character we happen to meet in the Phantom Menace, right?
True. True.
And it also just feels like a victory lap for the idea of patience in Star Wars. So there's just
Yeah.
like, it's a lot I love about it on a meta level.
Yeah, you could almost say Maul is a character that made the jump from live action to animation. Like
Hmm.
he's pulled in, and I want to know more. Maybe in another episode, another center of you wandering around that central time zone with a backwards baseball cap, ciggy in hand, and your slash Axel vibes. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's a pretty accurate picture of the year 2000 for me, Siggy included. Um, Yep. Anyway, while doing sketch comedy like
There you
the
go.
real bad boys. Anyway, so let's talk about the actual show. From the descriptions that Alex and other people did, they said it definitely feels like it is obviously it is about his reconsolidating of power of Crimson Dawn, but also, the Shadow Lord title references his Shadow Collective that he built in the Clone Wars.
Mm,
Um, so his map is pretty wide open from the end of the Clone Wars, where he escapes Ahsoka, and then he shows up 10 years later in Solo, in charge of Crimson Dawn, and then at some point he ends up on Malachor a few years later. So clearly, yeah, it's a crime show. It's probably going to be gritty, but we know that the animation team doesn't just tell stories of gritty cool people doing gritty cool mean things
mm.
ever. So what does that make you feel the show is going to be about or like?
Yeah, and you helped me kind of trace his final steps in season 7 of the Clone Wars, where this seems to somewhat begin around that time. And I like that we're a little bit open and that there's room for this could be a 10 season pitch, right? Like
Hmm.
this could be,
Oh my God.
I hope, I hope they get that. Yeah. I love this idea of, him having to crawl back to the shadows and reemerge. And along the way, you get the idea of, we know some of the characters that could show up. We'll discuss more, but, the old Sisyphus pushing the rock up the hill again. Maul
Hmm.
literally going, "All right, cool. I'm back. I'm back in this spot. What a good run I had on Mandalore. What a good time. Now I need to rebuild. What's next for me? I need to get a studio apartment and make some new friends." So just tracing that and tracing him thinking. There's something about Maul thinking he's got it made again. Thinking
Hmm.
that everything's changed for him. His prospects are looking up, but he's ignoring the truth. His soul is driven by vengeance, and that's going to lead to a destruction that we know is coming. So it's going to be fun to explore that. And there's so many other ways this show could look at the galaxy during this timeline, as we know.
Hmm.
But focusing on him right now for this question, I just that climb back up for someone we're not supposed to root for, but in classic villain who thinks he's the center of his own story, the hero of his own story, there's going to be things along the way. I think we're going to find ourselves rooting for him in a little way,
I
maybe.
think so, and I think that has always been the dance with Star Wars characters of this sort of beautiful idea in Star Wars that, in my opinion, no one is born evil, right? It's not
Hmm.
like you were born on a planet evil and you happen to look like real world Satan, so you're a bad guy. It's that things
Hmm.
happen to him and he can't bring himself to make a better choice.
Hmm.
And I think that makes the character sympathetic. The biggest thing that I'm really excited about is, like, structurally, plot wise, if a lot of this is Godfather in space, which criminal is trying to get, uh, uh, get on an advantage on the other, great, love it for plot. I feel like it's been a light touch, but what has given Maul humanity is he is the loneliest man in the galaxy. I think, it's only in publishing where he kind of just explicitly states, like, why didn't the Jedi ever come for me?
Mm,
Did I end up, you know, basically owned by this horrible man, Palpatine? And then, uh, the only family I have, the only goal I have is the Sith domination, and I get kicked out of that, and I can't be a Sith again. And I have this brother who's kind of an apprentice, Savage Opress, so I'm kind of not alone, and he gets taken from me. And then I think in Rebels, I have always been of the opinion of, like, yes, Maul is absolutely manipulating Ezra for his own ends. But I think he really wants to convince Ezra to join the dark side also because Maul's just like lonely. Of like,
mm,
I don't want to be going around the galaxy doing evil alone. Like, why don't you come with me and help kill Kenobi and we'll have cookies afterwards and it'll be
yeah,
fun, buddy? Like, there's a
yeah,
deep, deep loneliness to him that I think he can lie to himself about in the pursuit of power. Of,
mm,
I need an apprentice. I need all these acolytes around me. I need this, core team of protectors around me. And like, yeah, that's good power building, but what you really want is, a family. Like, I wonder how much it'll get into the sort of like of some of the Scorsese-esque.
mm-hmm,
You
mm-hmm,
want power, but you also want a family. Um,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I know that some of the people talking about the footage that they saw said that there's maybe a Darth Talon-esque character. Maybe there's already in the footage that they released an apprentice vibe. I really wouldn't be surprised if this is a little bit like a mirror to the kickoff of the Clone Wars. Of turns out Anakin has a Padawan. Of
mm-hmm.
turns out Darth Maul had an apprentice we never knew about.
Yeah. I think definitely not anything on StarWars.com, but I think Alex did post something about an apprentice, and of course, immediately the thoughts go to Talon and all those things. No matter who it is or what it is or what, it just serves the points of what you're talking about here of him once again trying to form connection. I think you're absolutely right. This is a hurt little boy. And
Mm-hmm.
he's got to deal with that, and to deal with it in time here as he's rebuilding a criminal empire, or at least an organization, which we know will find some level of success. To do it during the time of the Galactic Empire, where it's like you got laid off for the job, and then that YouTube channel blows up, and you're over here trying to struggle through another one. Like, oh man, my former boss is doing great, and that's going to affect him as well, and drive him forward too. So yeah,
Yeah, it was like he was going to be like the CFO of McDonald's,
yeah, yes,
and
yes,
Palpatine, the CEO, said, "No, you're out." And then he's just quietly going, "Could I start a few franchises?"
yes,
And,
yes,
and that is one of the actual story points I'm really interested in, of how much he is in the shadows in terms of the
yeah,
Sith, Vader, and Palpatine's knowledge of him, or if it really is a like Palpatine's going to let him go around the galaxy for his little scraps of
yes,
power because it benefits Palpatine. Of like, you're not a Sith, do not step to me.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Do not claim the legacy. Don't get out of line. But I know you're running the crime syndicates, and the crime syndicates benefit me. So go ahead and do that.
yeah,
If that's a negotiated allowance for Maul, or if a lot of his energy is hiding his activities from
mm-hmm.
Darth Sidious.
It's a wonderful point. It is one of those questions that should hang around Maul, maybe even more than it does. Meaning, we get pushback, and sometimes you and I are even not part of that pushback, but part of the ones asking the questions about, oh, another Jedi, another Order 66 survivor. Oh, what are we going to do with that? And I've always said Order 66 pretty traumatic. I'd love to explore it from all angles, and there's a lot of Jedi that are involved with that, so that could have survived, but that kind of gets scrutinized versus like, I don't know, Maul hanging out with Vader and Palpatine still in power is always a weird dynamic to me from that point of view of just watching A New Hope and going, man, they just spent 19 years and Maul was roaming around. That's a little weird, but they handle it so well.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly what you're saying. I will maybe even get some of those answers.
Yeah.
Of Maul. Does Maul send an email to Palpatine? Hey, I'm doing pretty good, but if there's any openings,
Yeah.
I'm available.
Yeah. I mean, because the Shadow Collective story in the Clone Wars really was like, yeah, I'm starting a criminal empire, but really I'm building up a power base
Yeah,
to challenge
yeah,
Palpatine. And Palpatine's like, no,
mm,
and smacks him down quite quite hard.
Mm.
Um, so that would add to his trauma if he is like, I am Weasel like building up really quiet power.
Yeah. Yeah.
So dad doesn't get mad at me again, which is, awful and torturous. But I think leads us
Mhm.
to the conversation I think a lot of fans are gonna want to have about, there are many characters at play in this era. The press release from StarWars.com just says this happens after the Clone Wars animated series, which means it could happen. It could start, with a recap of him escaping Ahsoka, or it could start 5 years later, or it could start,
Right.
So the exact timeline is up for grabs.
Yeah.
Many characters in play for this era, and I want to talk about who you might be excited for. But just to connect back to what we were talking about, the thing that I was thinking about this morning uh, was all of this of like it seems like a big question to answer of are Palpatine and Vader aware of his rebuilding his criminal empire? Are they allowing it, or is a lot of Maul's tension to hide it?
Mm.
I think if you asked a lot of people in 1999, 2000, what could be the best Star Wars thing you could possibly see, it would be Maul versus Vader. And a part of me feels like that might be where we're headed because it makes narrative sense.
Mhm.
Maul did not seem anxious to try to take on Vader
Mhm.
in Rebels, to my recollection on
Right.
Malachor. It wasn't a like, it was like, let's go.
But yeah, he does
He,
gets a little bit of like, dude,
he gets,
party's place is dead anyway.
but yeah, exactly. There isn't any sort of like, I'll show him. There's like, yeah.
You're right.
Maybe Maul needs a third to fourth set of legs delivered by. But I mean, there was something like it's really fun to think about because I think in 99, 2000s, from the perspective of our generation, Gen X, who I think pushed back on the whimsy of Phantom Menace and wanted everything to be badass,
Mm.
that some of the conversation about who would win in a fight was all just sort of like all about power and who's scariest and who's the bigger badass. And
Mhm.
that stuff is really fun. But these characters have been so well developed that now the thought of a confrontation between Maul and Vader is so emotional,
Mm.
as well as it would be a physical fight. There's all the storytelling of like, is this does Palpatine find out that Maul is growing in power again and send Vader to test Vader? It's a
Mhm.
test for both of you. You know,
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't think Maul's going to win, but hey, if he does, maybe I'll take him back because that
Mhm.
proves that Anakin's slipped
Right.
even because he's constantly testing him in all the Vader
Yeah.
storytelling. So it
Constantly.
starts to take on instead of just like this fantasy of like the two baddest badasses in Star
Yeah.
Wars have a big badass fight. Yes, we get that, but it takes on this like horrible, tortured
Mhm.
dad has sent two damaged sons
Yeah. Yes,
to
indeed.
fight for his approval.
Yeah.
And they're both taking that as this huge ego validating, if Maul gets any inkling of who Vader is, there's that added that they both have Kenobi issues.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we're the two baddest badasses in the galaxy, and we both got our asses handed to us
Yeah.
by winky, flirty Kenobi. BS, like
Yeah.
it's so rich that that's kind of what I want to see more than anything is
Mhm.
not just from the cool badass, but from the emotional perspective of Maul versus Vader.
I mean, does little Annie have a flashback? And like, you almost ran me down with your motorcycle in the desert, man. I'm
Yeah,
back,
I mean,
baby.
yeah, I mean, I've always loved that about Phantom Menace, and I think that's one of the reasons that Maul was designed to be like he is inarguably scary evil, right?
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
terms of appearance, the way he's coded in Western views of what Satan looks like.
Yeah.
Um, that yeah, does Vader have baggage of like, yeah, and then I became that. I saw that when I was a loving
Yeah.
little towhead, and now mm,
Now this is me. Yeah. No. Well, and it just speaks to what we both said up top of trusting the animation teams that have been just doing wonderful things for 20 years. That on paper, you're right. Does a Vader Maul lightsaber fight on paper excite me now as much as it would 20 years ago? I don't know until you start exploring the whys. And it's not like they're going to have a sit down conversation. Did you like Obi-Wan? I didn't like Obi-Wan. But everything, the subtext, like you say, is gonna be there and will be handled in a way that I absolutely trust if it happens. We're making predictions in a way here, but it
Yeah.
tracks with the why.
Nah, I mean, I'm just letting myself be a fan.
Yeah.
This is not a prediction. This is a desire because I mean, there's some great stuff, and I can't remember what is it. I think comic book or publishing thing about Anakin really being interested in watching recreations of all of Kenobi's fights, including the one with Maul,
Mm,
or getting some hollow video from the Theed power generator. So
mm,
I mean, Vader would definitely taunt Maul for
hmm.
being getting his ass kicked.
Yeah. Yeah. Indeed.
Yeah. Thank you for indulging me in my Vader fantasy. Where do you go with what kind of characters are you excited to possibly see in Maul's orbit?
Yeah. The number one on the list, I think, for a lot of folks, is Kira.
Hmm.
And look, did they get Amelia Clark to voice this? No rumors show that to be true. No rumors even make it a solid bet that Kira's here. But it just come on. You know what I mean? That's all I can do.
Hmm.
That's my reasoning. Come on.
Hmm.
And playing Star Wars Outlaws where Kira's in it and Crimson Dawn, and we know where she goes. And you and I and many others have always been like, she wins in some way. She puts him on Malachor. If that's even the case,
Hmm.
I think you'd said something off air that I liked. Of like, we get the impression that he's been kind of hiding out on Malachor or stranded on Malachor. But it's there. I think they have Dryden Voss designed in this Clone Wars style because of season 7. Obviously, Voss is into play here, but also this could be one good go around with McDermott is Palpatine at some point. Him showing it up again
Hmm.
makes a lot of sense, and I don't want to start that damn cameo battle that happened in season 1 of Clone or Bad Batch and beyond. But these are just characters that exist during this time. We have the ability to pull some of these performers in. It'd be wonderful. But my number one on the list is Kira. No matter who
Hmm.
voices her, I just want the character.
Yeah, and I think we will talk a little bit about what kind of timeline this show might
Mm,
cover and all that, and I know that affects it too because like yeah, if it's immediately after Revenge of the Sith, we're not getting to Kira for a while, and that's the only thing that
yep.
gives me pause of like, oh, are they trying to tell the story like immediately after Revenge of the Sith, not
Right.
jumping around in his timeline?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would love to see Kira. I would love to see Amelia Clark play Kira. I'm sure she doesn't
Mm-hmm.
voice her in Outlaws, does she?
No. No.
Okay, yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, I have long joked that the show I want or the animated special is Kira, versus Maul.
Mm-hmm.
Crimson Dawn, Kira versus Maul. And yeah, would love it if the truth is that she's the one who stranded him on Malachor. Definitely the comic book storytelling we have with her is obviously Maul is long gone, not long gone,
Mm-hmm.
but he's gone because it's all in the era of the Galactic Civil War, and she's in charge of Crimson Dawn and flexing that muscle.
Mm,
That would be fantastic to see. I think there's a lot in this show that could explore not just the Sith or the dark side, but explore everybody else's reaction to it. You know,
mm,
that Kira's storytelling in the comic books is that she knows she's one of the people who knows that the galaxy is being run by Sith, and that
yeah.
Sith are a plague on everyone, and they must be ended. And that suggests that she really didn't have a great time with Maul, and had some experience in
Mm-hmm.
bringing down a Sith.
Yep.
So I think
Yep.
there's a lot to play with in Kira, and just plenty of room to develop that character.
Indeed. Yeah. Her having the confidence or not, yeah, knows that she's done it once. She can maybe do it again. And this is
Hmm.
that path.
And there's such a focus on the terror of Maul and Kira getting beating him, but there's also that loneliness thing.
Yeah.
The "come to me on Dathomir"
Mm-hmm.
angle could also play into Maul's loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
Dryden
Yeah.
wasn't very much fun to hang out with.
No,
About you, Kira.
intense. Yeah. Both a great
um,
party guy and bad party guy, Dryden Voss.
yeah. I would love. I don't care how many Order 66 stories. I would love to see some surviving Jedi. I'd love to meet some surviving Jedi that we never met because I think
Hmm.
it'd be great to have some Jedi around from Maul to work through his issues with,
Yeah, yeah,
and have them be ones where their story is wide open. So I'd be happy for him to meet a character that we don't know.
yeah.
I would love for some of the people that we've talked about wanting to show up in the Path show, like Quinlan Voss,
Yep,
uh, to show up. I would love for Asajj to
yep.
be a part of this show, which makes a ton of sense. Um,
Yeah, talk about lonely people with pasts on
yeah, and
the, the
if
Jedi.
he's
Yeah.
based on
Mm-hmm.
Dathomir, like Asajj might not take kindly to him
Mm-hmm.
haunting her
Yeah.
homeworld, and there's this great contrast where he is somebody who has never managed to escape um his trauma, and Asajj is a person who is succeeding at it.
Yeah.
Could really rub some salt in the wounds.
Yeah, there's I'm not saying this to put any false hope out there of suddenly by season 3 this is also the Path show. Like I don't necessarily think that's the case, but what you talked about there is it could touch into that world, and I know a lot of people, us included, are excited in what seems to be a lot of things set up for this Path.
Hmm.
So I hope we get to that somehow, some way, but we can get the sprinkles of that. You mentioned Quinlan Voss. I mean, Maul is probably wondering if what happened to Kenobi. Probably if he even thinks he's alive, going to be looking for him. If he even
Hmm.
discovers other Jedi exist, if he's taken an apprentice, that's going to be a part of his emotional portfolio he wants to deal with. So I'm absolutely with you on where's Kenobi could be not the number one overriding theme, but just part of the stew.
Absolutely. The other character that occurred to me that would be interesting to see fleshed out the way animation does such a great job of is Moff Gideon. Um,
Yeah, interesting.
Obviously,
Yes.
some of Maul's connection to Mandalore has been severed, but
Hmm.
maybe not all of it. And whether he crosses paths with Gideon would be really interesting.
Yeah, and a chance to get an all-star roster of your favorite underworld stars. Hondo Watch
Hmm.
could be back on for a lot of folks, including our buddy
Hmm.
PLD, Fennec Shan, any of these characters.
Oh
Hell,
yeah,
a Din Djarin and a first job from him. I don't care. It
yeah.
could be possible because we're definitely gonna spend some time in the underworld.
Hey, yeah. I mean, if this is an underworld show, I know the panel they showed even more, footage of the Cad Bane Boba Fett arc from the
Right.
Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Is this the show where we will finally
Oh,
get the Cad Bane Boba Fett fight? Because I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility.
it's
It's
not.
the underworld, and he's hiring bounty hunters. I got to
Yeah.
imagine.
Did you watched the panel? I think you said you watched
No,
the
I
panel, right?
didn't watch it.
Okay.
I just I
It was
read up.
it
Yeah.
was classic Dave. Love Dave. They did this like every year we showed the Cad Bane Boba Fett helmet thing, and he was basically saying we showed it, but we didn't know that we would also get a chance to do a lot of these things again. So
Hmm.
he did it. He talked and talked and talked as Dave does, and hell, I love to talk and talk too. And even acknowledged at one point I should shut up and let Athena talk, and then proceeded to talk for 10 more minutes. But I was like, oh, they're going to announce like a Boba Fett animated show. Because he just
Hmm.
kept saying this footage isn't that good. We still would love it, but we have a lot to do, and it showed the rough animatic. But if you want to read into his bleep eating grin, he sometimes has. I think you could be right. Why not? Why not just explore it? We're opening
Hmm.
up to the world. Maul's the lead. I got it, but there's a lot of room for storytelling.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, I think is fans, you can decide whether you like it, you can decide whether it's filler, but
Mm-hmm.
the legacy of animated Star Wars shows is that they often will suddenly have a 2 to 3 episode arc that is focusing on a character who's in the main character's orbit, but not the main
Mm-hmm.
characters. So I do not think that is even remotely out of the realm of possibility to have this be a Maul show and there's a
Mm-hmm.
3 episode arc where we focus on Boba Fett.
Yeah, totally, totally. Yeah.
Um, so last big question about Maul Shadow Lord is the narrative shape of the show. Do you have thoughts about what amount of time it might cover if it starts right after Revenge of the Sith and takes him up to his fateful final encounter with Kenobi,
Yeah.
or do you think it won't move through that much time? What are your thoughts and dreams?
My dreams are I want it to go for a long time. 3 seasons seems to be the norm these days. I know Rebels got 4 and all that kind of stuff, and sometimes there's some business behind the cap being 3 seasons. Frustrating business reasons
Mhm.
sometimes, but there's so much room, and you and I are talking about things all over the timeline. I could see it kind of being the early days, the getting into it, the establishing it. I got an apprentice, I meet Dryden Voss, and then he's like, "Hey, I got someone for you to meet. It's my new assistant," and the show ends. I can see that there's a lot of drop off points that kind of we would then be able to pick up the story ourselves, or another bit of storytelling with Maul. I don't know. It's a dream. Give me 7 seasons, man. Jump some time, but let's get up. Let's get up. Let's get up to that phone call. Let's get
Yeah.
beyond that phone call in Solo.
I think with the amount of power that Filoni has, uh, I don't think he's starting a show like this without a. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think he's doing an open-ended animation show of like,
Right.
how many years can we tell Maul? This
Yep.
it is not 19,
Mm-hmm.
95, and you're just like, how long will Full House run?
Yep.
It's just, especially not with animation and not with a franchise like Star Wars. So I hope it's a planned 3-season arc. I mean, it'd be
Mm-hmm.
great if the industry changed and all that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I hope it's kind of planned. Bad Batch benefited so much from the clear knowledge of this is how much road we have, and this
Mm-hmm.
is how we're going to space ourselves out for it.
Yep.
Rebels did too. Um, so I would love it if it's a 3-season arc that jumps in time and
Yeah.
starts right after Revenge of the Sith, but brings us at least to Malachor. You know,
Yeah. 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 There's so much room to move and groove on that timeline with that character. But yeah, you're right. There's a lot of places
hmm
I want to get to. It's
yeah.
awesome.
I did think of one other question that I want to ask you about Maul
Mm-hmm.
Shadow Lord. We've talked many times about finding that balance of telling stories about Darksiders, making them sympathetic in terms of we understand their pain, but we still don't agree with their choices, the fun of just reveling in the bad guys. But this is pretty different for Star Wars to have the main character be a merciless killer.
Mm-hmm.
We've done it with books, we've done it with long comic book runs, but this is different to have
Mm-hmm.
a television show where the main character is a merciless murderer at the end of the day. Do you
And I
think
think
there'll be Go ahead.
no. Please, please, please.
Do you think there'll be any perspective characters who can try to pull Maul away from what he's doing, or try to be a voice for the audience, a perspective for the audience of this character is charming and wonderful, but he's a tragedy, and let's really remind you that he's a tragedy.
Yeah. Omega. They're gonna have yes, because I think at the panel, whether it was Filoni or Athena or later on, maybe Whitwer, and again, so happy for that Whitwer kid getting into Star Wars again. So, defeated me. I'm still bitter. They framed him. They framed Maul as this tragic character. They said that word
Good,
tragic. So
good.
you're absolutely right. You need someone to help with that framing. You need someone to be a mirror to Maul,
Yeah.
whether he wants to see the reflection or not.
Yeah, and maybe he goes through apprentices and they don't take.
Yeah,
Maybe that
yeah,
is Kira up to a point. Um, Maybe it is other. I don't know. Other crime lords is weird, but yeah,
hmm
um, I'm really fascinated to see kind of how they handle that balance. I have complete faith that they will handle it, but I'm really curious to see how they do it.
indeed. It's gonna be
Yeah.
fun.
All right, moving on to hey, news about a Star Wars film. This was I think I expected this to be announced since Kathleen Kennedy said in that interview, just confirmed in that
Yeah.
interview that the next film to shoot was going to be this Sean Levy film, but exactly what it was, exactly when it was around in the rumor mill, but not in confirmation. So big confirmation that Star Wars: Starfighter coming May 2027 to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Star Wars. It's a standalone film set 5 years after Rise of Skywalker. So that's where I want to start. How do you feel about the clear confirmation that, hey, it is a standalone film set 5 years after Rise of Skywalker, but all these other films are still in development? They name checked Shermeen Obed Chinoy, right, in the
Yeah.
panel. In Kinberg, Mangold and
Taika.
Filoni, that's great, but
Yeah.
yeah, and Taika Waititi, but in particular, Shermeen Obed Chinoy in Kinberg, Shermeen Obed Chinoy's Rey New Jedi Order film is definitely playing in this timeline.
Hmm.
The rumors is that Kinberg's film is playing in the timeline. There were various rumors of like, oh, actually, Sean Levy's going to take over that whole timeline, or blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
So, really clarifying that these other films are still in development as of now, and this is just a standalone summer adventure for the 50th anniversary. How do you feel about that?
I take it at face value. I like it, but you can't tell me that if Gosling's character survives and is a hero, that you wouldn't want him to show up later on in another film like a Kinberg trilogy. I don't know. It just makes some sense to me. But in terms of it being a standalone film 5 years after Rise of Skywalker, I'm excited about that. I love also that 5 years is that kind of standard Star Wars. You need about 5 years after the blank. We have
You know,
that.
five-ish. Don't hold
Yeah.
us down.
Yeah,
Don't
which
pin us down.
to me does tie back to the Zahn novels, right? Because they were like, you just everything's got to be
Yeah,
5 years after.
five.
Don't
I think
touch.
was that 6 years. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
but yeah, five,
yeah,
6-ish.
yeah.
How much time has
Mm,
passed in the entire three seasons of Mandalorian? 2 weeks.
yeah.
Don't make us say. Yeah. Um.
But my big picture reaction is excitement to finally get to know that, hey, we're moving past 9 into new territory. It makes me even nervous as a fan. I don't know what to expect with that, but also we didn't know what to expect going into 7, so this is exciting too.
Yeah, I think I was really relieved. I really want the new Jedi Order film to happen. I really want Rey to be the focus. I really want Charmin Obed Chinoy to stay attached. I've liked a ton of the work of Simon Kinberg and the faith that Lucasfilm has in that long term relationship, and having the boldness in the confidence in this era to plan for a trilogy. I like both those projects,
Mhm.
so I didn't want this one project to sort of bump them, to be
Yeah,
perfectly honest,
yeah.
because I think Sean Levy is very talented. He's having a moment. He's got a lot of power, and I continue to think, as I said all along, that he was talking about this film long before there was any ink on paper, and I think he was doing that as a negotiating tactic, and kudos to him, it worked.
Hmm. Hmm.
um, but I kind of wanted to be freed of some of my own personal about the politics of it, to just enjoy the film. And
Yeah.
this announcement was to me like, okay, this cleared up the things I was concerned about, so that I could just enjoy the film. I also just think that I love the decision to go, okay, we don't have to wait for the first trilogy or first movie starring a main character after uh, Rise of Skywalker, after the sequels. We can just, as a team, lay some ground rules of what's
Mhm.
going on in the galaxy,
Yeah.
what kind of government has been set up, what kind of challenges are going on, what kind of repercussions are going on. We know that we've defined the sandbox a little bit. Now we can invite different creators to play in that sandbox now that we have that knowledge. And I feel like that must be, what's happening. I don't think Sean Levy is alone in a room deciding what the fate of the galaxy is after Rise of Skywalker. I think, you know,
Yeah.
the team, including Filoni and story team and Kathleen Kennedy herself, are deciding what that looks like. And now we just have a sandbox for Ryan Gosling to go zoom in.
Mm. Mm. I hadn't thought of it, and taken a little bit of pressure off a new Jedi Order film to kind of be like, here's the sandbox, right? I think
Mm-hmm.
that actually will help. And standalone film again. I don't. I'm not saying that's 100% true, and I'm not saying this is connected. But you're all at this point. All these creators who are telling stories going forward are obviously going to be very aware of what is going on. It seems, and that's not about the plan. The plan, just like they're all in the same Microsoft Teams chat room. I think.
Exactly. Um, I was doubly joyful about this because when I was scanning the news quickly before that documentary screening started.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the Sean Levy confirmation. I was like, great, makes sense, expecting that. And then I just saw and Ryan Reynolds is here, is what I read in my mind. And I was like, he's so good as Deadpool.
He's
I
great.
cannot watch YouTube without seeing 800 of those goddamn Mint Mobile
Mint
commercials.
mobiles.
I think he's talented and he's amazing,
Yeah.
but he's got, he's really adopted in his public persona the sort of Deadpool meta snarky wink at the camera
Mm-hmm.
comedy, and I think he's an actor. He's capable of much more.
Yeah.
But I had that moment of like, I don't know if that's what I'm in the mood for in Star Wars, of
Mm.
meta winky. We're doing it, but we're making fun of it, which is explicitly Deadpool, but also just that's been Ryan Reynolds again, kind of his public persona.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got home and realized, oh, I just totally misread that. That's right.
Confused your
Rumor
Ryans.
was always Ryan Gosling, and like I was very, very excited. So we'll talk about the Ryan Gosling in just a minute. But
Yeah.
man, I was doubly joyful because again, no disrespect or dislike of Ryan Reynolds. I just think Ryan Gosling's a great match
Mm-hmm.
for this film. But the big news, or maybe you knew this rumor too, Ken, is that it is some sort of pilot movie called Starfighter. Big win for Star Pilot fans. How do you feel about that as a standalone Star Wars film? How do you feel about it being in the shadow of the Rogue Squadron film that they announced that
Yeah.
is not happening?
It's so funny. For some reason, on my show yesterday when I was live, I got a little snarky on, oh, wow, a pilot movie. Like, I don't know why, because I don't dislike them. I'm not Alex Damon on pilots. I'm not others on pilots. I was excited for Rogue Squadron just in terms of a new Star Wars project. And there's another major A+ celebrity that was attached to that film at some point, maybe that it was like, okay, I'm on board for this. But so I was unreasonably snarky. But as I've woken up this morning, had some coffee, I'm like, yeah, no, this actually makes sense. It's
Mm-hmm.
either, and again, what news is true and what news is just someone drunk in a bar in Tokyo posting something yesterday. I think there was talk of perhaps there's like a teen character and that we know what what's her name? Sorry, she just won an Oscar. I'm trying to put respect on it. Mickey Madison, is that her name?
Oh yeah,
Uh,
Mikey
uh,
Madison.
Mikey, who just allegedly, Variety confirmed, turned down a role for this film. So obviously, it's not a Gosling. He's the only actor in this film. But him having some sort of a mentor that maybe has force powers, all that makes sense. But to me, if you're going to do a standalone in this new era, and you got Ray and more coming, this makes sense because it's either going to be a bounty hunter or a scoundrel or something like that. But why not make it kind of a Top Gun Maverick in space? And I know it's not going to be that, but that's where my thoughts were yesterday and today. I like the idea; it just makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, there's no guarantee that he is a new Republic.
Yeah, yeah,
It's Starfighter, so
yeah.
there's lots of ways to fight in the stars.
A lot of ways.
Yeah, I'm thrilled by the fact that it is a pilot film for a couple of reasons. One, I think it is right now the most underused part of the classic Star Wars DNA.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We see a little bit of it in
Right though.
Disney Plus shows on the smaller screen of space battles, but like I mean, even for years we've been getting questions and comments from people who
Yeah.
are with us on ForceCenter about they're not even fighting in space much in the sequel trilogy. They keep
Yep.
fighting in atmospheres.
Yep.
Just fight in space.
Yep.
Please, it's called Star Wars. For God's
So
sake,
true.
fight in space. So I'm very happy for those people. But also, we talked a lot about it when the Rogue Squadron film was announced. It makes so much sense for a fun, splashy, high stakes summer adventure where it is a roller coaster ride. It is a thrill ride because it's this action that should be on the big screen to really feel the motion of
Mm-hmm.
the space battles and Ace Pilot zipping around, and also it we got to enjoy so many of those scenes in like the original trilogy in particular, also like Battle of Coruscant, but either with characters that we did not know or characters with plot armor.
Yeah.
But to have multiple characters zipping around in space and have that high stakes, yeah, they could die and they might die.
Mhm.
I think that's a great way to combine the high emotional stakes that Star Wars always has with a big, fun, splashy summer adventure. And I think because this one is the 50th anniversary, it's even more important to me that it is a big, fun, splashy adventure.
Yeah, zip, some zoom, some bang.
Some zip and some zoom.
Yep.
Um, and how do you feel about? Do you feel like this is in any way sort of re-announcing a film they already announced and then pulled back on with the Rogue Squadron?
Uh, in general, in that genre sense, yeah, but I take it differently. You know, Rogue Squadron seemed to be more of the pilot picture. You know, so you were
Hmm.
literally a squadron. You know, what we were going to do with that was going to be different. But this is intriguing because to me it's he's an ex-military guy. Maybe he fought in the Battle of Mexico. We got all that kind of stuff, but he seems just the early reaction just seems like maybe he's not directly connected anymore, and he's got this cool ship, this new design that everyone's talking about. I haven't
Or
seen.
did they show pictures of that?
They did.
Okay.
For reasons I don't even fully understand. I avoid any. Don't send me pirated links or pictures.
Hmm.
If I wasn't there, I
Hmm.
don't deserve to see it. If I stumble on it, I stumble on it. And again, why am I? I'm probably buying butter at Target today. I'm not as principled as I'd like to be, but on this
Hmm.
one I am. But yeah, so I like that. I got the vibe of he's just he might be a lone wolf going around the galaxy versus, but he's got the scars of a squadron in the past.
Yeah, I think that they are very different films. I
Hmm.
think what was announced with Patty Jenkins, obviously with the title Rogue Squadron, was very much about yes, a squadron, and that's very different from like uh, hotshot pilot with the past who's maybe not with an organization now, and maybe
Yeah,
maybe needs to rejoin an organization, all that kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah, those to me are different films, and I also think like I do think it's too bad that that film was so fully uh, announced with Lucasfilm's whole chest, Rogue
Yeah,
Squadron.
it was.
But I think it is also just a constant reminder that films are in development until they're like really, really the green light has been given on production.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't think there's any big scandal. I think Lucasfilm and Patty Jenkins worked together on a script, and neither of them got to the place where they were both happy with it. As I go back to my dating analogy, they
Hmm.
dated,
Yeah, yeah.
it didn't work out, and sadly, they announced to us and invited us to the engagement party
Hmm.
prematurely.
Hmm. Yeah, agree with that. Agree with that.
Yeah. So I already went on a bit about being excited for Ryan Gosling. I have more to say about that, but how do you feel about the Ryan Gosling of it all? Him as an actor, as a person in pop culture, but also the uh, big star for a Star Wars film is not unheard of, but it's a little different.
It's a little different. I do think it's not unheard of in terms of the prequel era. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, Liam Neeson and Samuel L. Jackson and Ewan McGregor, they were like,
not
oh,
nobody's. Yeah.
yeah, and even Natalie Portman. Let's be clear, like had was an emerging star and a known name. Yeah, so but the original trilogy has its lore of unknowns for the most part, and then sequel trilogy does too as well. But also, let's not forget it had Harrison Ford in it.
Hmm.
No longer a kid, a former carpenter making good. But he just had already been established. So this is different. I get it. I'm just all in on it. I think when Jen and I covered the breaking news on the rumor and the confirmation from Legacy Trades on his involvement a couple months back, I was excited. I'm even more excited, and we can talk about what I think he brings to the table. I think he is a movie star. I think he's multifaceted and very talented and can hit a lot of different things as a performer at a lot of different levels. But I do think I don't know. This just makes so much sense to me. Like you talked about Sean Levy and his current run. And you talk about one of the biggest, again, the think pieces on the death of the movie star and all that kind of stuff are all legit. And and interesting, and have changed it's changed our industry. But this is one of the last kind of, not last, current names that will draw. I think it puts a little bit of a Teflon coating on this film that I think Lucasfilm is interested in. Disney's definitely interested in having right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a reality to me. Same with the Mandalorian and Grogu. Hey, popular show, let's do that. Let's bring that Grogu kid into the pictures. And as Jad pointed out so well, his salary is very low compared to other stars. And I think this is that for me. I'm excited for him. I get the trepidation of a name I know in Star Wars. I just don't think that's going to be a problem once the trailers hit, once the footage hit, once the film hits in 2027. I don't think it's Gosling and Star Wars is going to be the issue. I think people will be on board.
Yeah, I think I'm so thrilled for it because I do think he is the modern Harrison Ford in a lot of ways. He has that range of being able to do just brutal dramas. Drive. I had a friend who wanted to
Blue
go to
Velvet.
Drive for her birthday, and afterwards, everybody was like, "Did you know what this film was?" She's like, "Not really. It's brutal."
Yeah.
He has obviously great comedic chops in the kind of comedy that I think both you and I appreciate of comedy that comes from a real human place. He is so funny in Barbie, and every
Yep.
moment of that is funny because it's deeply, deeply true. And that's a
Mm-hmm.
film about existential
Yeah.
dread of where do you find your identity, and he plays every beat of comedy of that. He
Mm-hmm.
is just very naturally very charming. He can
Yeah.
also sing and dance. I don't know if that's going to come into this film, but he's
Yeah.
so multifaceted, and I think could pull out all of the things that are needed for what I hope is going to be a fun, splashy adventure with real human stakes. Star Wars, at its best, does this magic trick of bouncing from genre to being just sort of ridiculously charming and fun to laugh
Mm-hmm.
out loud funny to suddenly really in one shot an actor
Mm-hmm.
with the right charm with the right chops making you feel like yeah all of this matters, it's real, it's
Yeah.
emotionally real,
Yeah.
and I think he is really in a good position to do that.
Yeah, I mistakenly said Blue Velvet, the David Lynch film, of course, from 1986. I meant Blue Valentine from 2010, which is a
Yes.
heartbreaking film, and one I watched once and was like, my heart can't take it again. So yeah, to bring all that into Star Wars, exactly like you said, it's gonna feel big. It's gonna be zippy. Yes, he's the Fall guy, and that had a lot of fun. Yeah, he's Barbie's number two, and I watch his Oscar performance of I'm Just Ken maybe once a week. It comes up on my algorithm all the time, and I'm like, let's watch it again. I think he's
So
wonderful.
good.
It's so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And I just think it's a good thing right now to have him in Star Wars.
Yeah. Yeah, my wife and I rewatched Barbie for the first time a couple weeks ago, and then afterwards, we're like, we immediately have to watch the Oscars performance of "I'm Just Ken."
It's just so great.
He's so
So good.
great. He's so and and what's so funny about it is so playing that character and seeing Margot Robbie and Billie Eilish
Mm-hmm.
cracking up in the
Mm-hmm.
theater, not able to control themselves because he is playing the seriousness of
Yeah.
I'm Ken and no one loves me, no one sees
Mm-hmm.
me so incredibly well. Also, big shout out to The Nice Guys. I think a criminally
Yes.
underrated. I got to see that one in the theater, and I think that one's going to go on to be like, why did people sleep on this back in the
Yeah.
2010s? Kind of
Yeah.
absolute classic in The Nice Guys.
Agreed.
Um, so I think a lot of the Ryan Gosling of it, also Sean Levy's history, does make me feel like a little bit more of a scoundrel vibe. Do you feel like that's a part of what is going to be at work in this film? Is a little bit of the
Yeah. It just makes some sense. Some sort of aloof cynicism to start. Who
Mhm.
knows what he's been through, and only 5 years out, and he's a starfighter. He's fought. He's been in some
Mhm.
battles. He's got some stories to tell, and I don't necessarily need it to be another version of Lone Wolf and Cub, and I don't believe that's the case. But it just has those kind of vibes as well. He just has that energy, or can tap into that energy. We should say.
Yeah. Final question for me on this one. I'm sure we'll learn more. What is the importance to you of having Star Wars back in the theater for the 50th anniversary?
It's still nothing short of amazing to me as a Star Wars fan. You know, this has been an interesting 11-year run now with ForceCenter and going back 2012 with this modern era of Disney. It's no longer new. It is just the era, and there's so many, you know, tiresome discussion points around it. There's so much cynicism. There's a little bit less energy for me at times of do I collect everything anymore? No, but I'm such a fan, and we are still blessed. 50 years on, that it's not just a re-release. And by the way, I hope we get a New Hope re-release at a theater. But 50 years on, we're getting to enjoy this new stuff, and there's still excitement, and there's still a stadium, full of people, or an arena full of people cheering this on at a convention. And despite a lot of people out there working really hard and making good money trying to destroy the vibes, this goes on. And 50 years
Mhm.
in, we're going to have something new and exciting, and Star Wars will be there. That's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just think marking those anniversaries is special. They become their own cultural moments.
Yeah.
I very much remember walking through the Brookdale Mall in a suburb of Minneapolis, and walking past, I believe, B. Dalton
Mm.
with the Starlog magazine 10th anniversary of Star Wars in
Yes.
'87 when there was nothing else around. It's the only copy of Starlog I ever bought. I read it to cover. Is one of the things that fueled my love of James Bond because they had a big article in there about the living daylights. And like in this film, James Bond is going to be monogamous because I didn't know how to pronounce monogamous. Anyway, uh,
Monogamous is a great like femme fatale opposite of it.
yes. Anyway, so such strong memories of that 10th anniversary, and then of course the 20th anniversary is the special editions, and
The
the
numbers.
30th anniversary is this kind of weird time where it's kind of in a little bit of limbo, but that
Yeah.
amazing action figure line is the legacy of the 30th anniversary to me, where they just made all the weirdest figures
Yeah.
humanly possible for the 30th anniversary, and um 40th and all kind of caught up in Last Jedi, and I feel like there was a little less. I mean, anyway,
Yeah.
I am
The-
rambling through my own relationship with Star Wars, but the point to me is, I think Star Wars has survived, and that is worth celebrating for the 50th. But I'm so happy that there's going to be a movie in the theater,
mm-hmm.
and maybe this film will be something entirely different. But I think with someone like Ryan Gosling who can play fun scoundrel but keep the emotional stakes high, that it's honoring the big thrill of Star Wars, of it's a space pilot having space lasers or battles,
Mm-hmm.
fast paced, getting down to the some of those absolute core DNA parts of the original Star Wars film was the battles in space and the shot of the impossibly long ship going forever
Yeah.
in space, all that stuff. I think we're at such a time where the original Star Wars film in 1977 redefined cinema.
Mm-hmm.
Along with Jaws, created the blockbuster phenomenon of it's too big for the small screen, and it's what everybody's going to be talking about all summer. So you got to see it. You got to go physically stand in the heat
Mm-hmm.
on a
Mm-hmm. Get
sidewalk
along. Yeah.
with other people and have a real human sweaty experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I think cinema is in danger right now, and I think our connection and our sense of community is in danger, as we all have careers that are tied to screens, so many of us. um, and I think a lot of technology that is pushing us and encouraging us in a not great way. Star Wars always has those themes of the organic versus the rigid and the mechanical, and I'm not against tools or technology, but I think the people controlling a lot of our technology want it to be rigid and mechanical, and want
Mm-hmm.
us to just stay locked at home, staying in our little boxes. And the act of going to the theater to have a communal experience with other people is so much of the themes of Star Wars that I kind of feel like, well, the only way I want to celebrate Star Wars on the 50th anniversary is a big communal experience. And if Mandalorian and Grogu hits, and if they manage to, make a great film with this one, and it is the summer of Starfighter, that I think would be a beautiful
Mm-hmm.
celebration of the themes of
Yeah.
Star Wars and some of what Lucas accomplished with it in 1977.
Yep. Summer of Starfighter. 50 years out. That's amazing. Yeah, don't talk about those dates. I can't. I was because SNL just had its 50th, and I was like, my first real like sitting down to watch SNL was their 15th anniversary special, and I remember thinking, can you? They did this in the 70s, that long ago. 15 years. Is barely over a half of Kenan Thompson's run now in SNL. Like 15
Yeah.
years is nothing, and here we are, 50 years into this, but it's so fast. But yeah, I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're getting me excited. Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to remember when I kickstarted that documentary I went to, and it's like, yeah, it's pretty recent. I think it's 2018. Like, no, that's
Yeah.
not recent.
It's not recent.
That's not recent.
I just
All
renewed.
right.
I renewed my driver's license, and the next renewal date is 2030.
It'll be here so soon. So soon.
Nope.
Anyway, one more big update to
Mhm.
talk about here. The Mandalorian and Grogu. There were some updates. I did see some pictures of stuff that was on the screen. I assume that was included in the public live screen. And then I did read some descriptions that people said about the footage. That it featured Sigourney Weaver's character in an orange flight suit giving orders to Mando. So, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, and I want to be clear again. I did see them, and they get around, and I'm not. It's not like I'm like rah. It's just like I don't go seek it out. So if it finds me, it finds me, and yeah, good stuff, man. I'm really excited for this film, and they've still got a lot of work to do on it. So I already saw some people posting of it just kind of looked like a TV show on the big screen, and just give them time and trust them. They realize that too. They realize that they can't just shoot an episode and make it a little longer and put it in the theaters. I think you can trust Johnny Favs and the team here. So no, we'd heard some of those rumors about Sigourney's character and ex rebel or New Republic, whatever you want to look at it. Just I think that's cool. Big day for fighter pilots in Star Wars, huh? Big day for flight suits and spaceships. So that was great. Love the vibes from this so far.
Yeah, I love just learning what Sigourney Weaver's character is. Yes, big day for space pilot fans.
Mm-hmm.
The descriptions of a little bit of footage that Sigourney Weaver's character is giving Mando his missions is great because it's really where I wanted them to follow up on that thread of
Yes.
Hey, Din's mission right now is to help Grogu live some life and become a good Mandalorian, and doing that by being a bounty hunter with morality. I will only take moral jobs from the New Republic to fight Imperial remnants. So I'm great that it's picking up there. I think for me, it's a hint toward what hasn't been revealed of what emotionally is at stake in this film, and I continue to think I hope it is about can Mando actually be a good father to Grogu? Can he actually teach him the life lessons that little Grogu needs, and that Grogu doesn't just disappear into, yeah, it's fun to run around and rip bleep up with my dad, and like, no, there's a lot of morality to this, Grogu. A little bit of responsibility with your power. So I get that from we're continuing that thread of Din's moral bounty hunting. Moral hunting. So I saw a promo shot of Din without the helmet, Pedro Pascal. Obviously, that could just be a production photo. And Pedro Pascal is one of the biggest stars going to be only bigger by next summer once he is firmly established in everybody's mind as Reed Richards. How do you feel about the helmet off? Both the real world Pedro Pascal FaceTime needed for publicity, and the possibility of what's going on with Din Djarin's journey. It seems he will have to take the helmet off in the film.
Yeah,
but there's the why of it left hanging out there.
Yeah, no, business wise, obviously makes a lot of sense, and this is going to be the shot, and you're going to bring him out in his, stylish little shorts and boots he had on yesterday that everyone was focusing on. He's got the riz, man. He's got the riz. No, I love it. I love that he's there, and love the work that Brendan Wayne and Lateef Crowder have done, and obviously continue to do on this character. But this is the reality of the business, and just in terms of the why, yeah, it's so curious to on this moral mission and discovery of who he is now and what he wants to do. Yeah, you're going to see those eyes. You're gonna. It makes a lot of sense, and we got the whole Grogu side of it, but to know that this is going to be a continuation of this title character, and we're going to have him, Pedro, at the heart of it. At least for some of it, is needed, and it makes me excited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, and it could be just one shot, and it could be, they have been better since 2022
Yeah.
about saying Brandon Wayne and Lateef Crowder and Pedro Pascal, the three of us together
Mm-hmm.
are the Mandalorian. But there's
Mm-hmm.
still, the reality of Pedro Pascal's face is better for posters in terms
Yeah.
of getting butts in the seats to the theater.
Yeah.
It's not right. It's just true. So I definitely want some FaceTime with Pedro Pascal. And it's one of the things I'm most curious about with the film of he took the helmet off because he had to a couple times to save his life, to save Grogu's
Yeah.
life,
Yeah.
to emotionally connect with Grogu. Then we had a whole season where he went, part of the season where he sought redemption for that.
Yeah.
Then we
Yeah.
had the story of the armor realizing that Mandalorians need to work together for the betterment of the entire Mandalorian community. But I didn't get any sense at the end of it that the armor was like, and you know what? We've been uptight, helmets off. I got it was like, here's our
Mm-hmm.
view of what it is to be a Mandalorian. And our group of Mandalorians must work together with other Mandalorians. But that the armor personally still feels like, I'll work with you because it's better for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But I wish you wouldn't all go around with your heathen naked faces.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're still of the belief that you don't take your helmet off. So where do you want Din to be on that journey? Do you want it to be that maybe I'm wrong, and maybe all of Mandalorian culture is revisiting this,
Mm.
or is Mando on a specific journey? Did Mando carve out a belief of like, in our clan of two in front of Grogu, it's not we're in our clan, so I can take it off in front of Grogu, or do you want yet another kind of like something forces him to take the helmet off? Would you rather see character evolution or another circumstance that forces it off?
I'd like I can see another circumstance at the start of this. I'd like some character evolution, like for him to be like, oh, now that I've done this, I still have my beliefs. I still, it's still there, but I'm evolving. Like this is this new world. I've made this new choice. I've decided to only seek out the so-called good missions, and I have changed. That means you still got to grow. You still got to figure it out. So I want a balance, not just to get Pedro's face in there, but just for the character to kind of, that in life where you're like, you're afraid of something, and the change happens, and you touch it and you realize, well, that wasn't as bad as I thought, and I can still be me. In fact, I can be a better version of me, a newer version of me. I want that to be the why, as opposed to just circumstances. But the circumstances, especially in the series, have been really emotional. Some of the best stuff, right?
Yeah,
Love that
they've
stuff.
been fantastic,
Yeah.
particularly taking the helmet off because Grogu needed to see his face to say goodbye.
Yep.
In some ways, like, I don't know how you do a better helmet takeoff than that.
Yes.
So I kind of want the character to evolve and want him to feel like I can still be a Mandalorian. I can define the kind of Mandalorian that I want myself and my son to be.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Still be who I am. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be fascinating. Okay, here's my final question for you, Ken. There was footage of a buff hut. I saw a screen grab there of the buff hut. How do you feel about buff hut? Is it Rada? I don't know if that was confirmed or not because I didn't watch the stream. And what other hut variants do you want?
That's a good. Yeah, I think it's being said as Rada, but that just might be. Yeah,
I don't
I'm
know
going
if
to
that was
accept.
confirmed or not.
Yeah. I'm going to accept it as Rada, but I did good point. I hadn't thought about it to this moment. Loved it. I love a good buff Hut. Was it Gracchus the Hut in the comics who's definitely eating right and hit the treadmill there. I love it.
Hit the treadmill.
Yeah, hit the treadmill, just swimming along. Um, Absolutely works for me. And look, I've always said that have I gone around as a Star Wars fan the last 10, 15, 20 years just saying Rod of the Hutt's my favorite character? No. But I think there's a great why with the character. There's this great question that dangles over the fact this character exists and he'd have some thoughts and opinions on what happened to Daddy. And the fact that, he may be captured, he may be in a different, bad circumstance, but the fact that he's young, he's a Hutt warrior. He's
Mhm.
he's not going to sit back. So I love that. I love the pirated clip that was out there. I got it. I saw it. It was in my feed. And as far as other Hutts, I'd like I'd like an elderly Hutt.
Yeah.
Bring back the twins. Really good with the twins popping up for Book of Boba Fett. Do that. And let's do a holographic memory of Jabba the Hutt from Rada. Like he's got a little just
remembering his dad.
Yeah, that's what I want.
I hope that it's Rada because I've got this image in my mind of he was arrested.
Yeah.
His father got too cocky, got too indulgent and got himself killed. And I want Rada in prison shots of him doing pull-ups like Linda Hamilton in T2 of like,
Yes.
This isn't going to happen to me.
Yes.
Not me.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I love that there continues to be that sense of play and that sense of let's take something that's familiar and a part of the Star Wars canon and no reason we can't, do a little twist on it.
Yeah.
I want sensitive artist Hutt. I want the Hutt.
Oh yeah.
That doesn't want to do violence. They just want to do paintings.
Yeah, it became like maybe one became a professor in Hosnian Prime or something like that, and left just in time, and later on I'm talking about, of course. But yeah. I like that idea. Artistic Hutts.
Artistic Hutts. Yeah, I was thinking of the sensitive artist, but I like the professor. The dapper Hutt about town. That would be good too, with a little cane.
Yep. Oh, the voices we could get through his characters. Hello, old boy.
Mibuki, old boy. Any other big picture thoughts on these announcements so far?
All great, wonderful. The people out there having a wonderful time. It's always a great time to be a Star Wars fan. So no disappointment on my end. All of it, though, and this isn't just about rumor mills and scoops. Just all of it was like, oh, yep, and none of it was like, oh my God, they're doing that. That for me was 2023 with Daisy confirmed, but also Big Jim Mangold and a Filoni film, like all that stuff. It was great, but so this is a little different vibe. But confirmation sometimes are just as much as surprises as the rumors. The only, not even disappointment. The only I think I worked myself too much was. Ahmed Best, I wanted him to come out and confirm that Kelleran Beck's in this film. Now, he's been all over day one. I watched a lot of the panel with the ILM crew. We got a Kelleran Beck comic series coming. So, all good. And the fact that Ahmed Best could be up on that stage, receive the love, and also beyond just this isn't a return. Now he's part of the family in a very, very big way. That's enough for me because I love Ahmed Best and I love the work he's done. But I was hoping.
Yeah.
Maybe too much.
And I think maybe they're letting it out slowly, right? I mean, there still isn't any
they really are.
Public trailer.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This I was like, oh no, we're gonna get a trailer, like 100% get a trailer. But
I thought we would too.
But
and I continue to be sort of conflicted about that because people flew to Japan, give them something special for them.
Yeah.
But it's going to be pirated, and I don't seek out the pirated, and even if it does come across my stream, I don't click on it. If it's a picture and I see it, and I
same,
but I think all the pictures I've seen have been Well, the Buff Hut was clearly a screen capture from
Yeah.
video. Anyway,
Yeah.
Point being, like with things like you got footage for Maul Shadow Lord, like let it be special for the people there for a
Yeah.
month.
Yeah.
Release it,
Yeah. I can get that.
Yeah. Anyway, I think the only other big picture thing for me is as we talk through all this, it just feels very on the rails of
Mm-hmm.
Lucasfilm being promoting Mando and Grogu. It's the next film coming out in a year. They need it to hit big in the theater. There needed to be clarity about what the next film was. There need to be clarity that this doesn't mean these other films aren't happening. There need to be clarity that we are celebrating the 50th anniversary.
Yeah.
We are moving forward. Here's a new animated series, and when all of it is, it doesn't feel as much like we have to announce something, so we announced a bunch of stuff so shareholders would be happy.
Yes.
It feels much more of like,
yes,
we've got the reins, we're on the rails, we're only announcing things that are happening really in the next 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
We're not, getting out ahead of our ski speeders.
Yep. Yep.
This is on the rails in what
So
people have been asking for from Lucasfilm.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. I have full confidence in all these. We got dates, we got stars for that, and that is different even from London, right? I mean, they didn't even really directly mention the Filoni film. I think it's happening, but we got time for that. A lot of time, I think. But again, they didn't mention it. So, yeah, well, and the Jedi Order film. Yeah. Anyway, don't want to repeat your point, but I like that this was solid.
Yep, solid. All right, that is it.
That is it. We did it. A special edition of Star Wars News. Thanks for listening. If you're just finding us here and you enjoy our deep dive into the headlines, we do deep dives and also silly things as well with our shows like Star Wars Ranked and our recaps. We got our Andor recaps coming very soon. We're going to take a day or two with those so we can watch the movies that we're going to get every week for 4 weeks and really dive into them. But thanks for watching. And if you're new again, find us on social media at ForceCenter Pod. You can get our podcast anywhere you get your podcast, including our special Sunday audio only re-releases of Databank Brawl. If you're here on YouTube, give us a like, subscribe, leave a nice comment, all those good things to help fight the empire that is the algorithm. You can get merch at TeePublic or Fourth Wall links down below. And you can also support us directly on Patreon at patreon.com/ForceCenter. Get into our Discord, where actually I will say a lot of my celebration news and the vibe checks are coming from our Force Center friends over there in Japan right now. So it's been a lot of fun to swing through that. Follow me at Ken Napzok or my website, kennapzok.com, and mention my show, The Blathering. 3 times a week I go live covering news, sports, politics, the world, and food too, because food brings out a lot of passion in the audience. Check it out every week on my YouTube channel. You, sir.
Yes, you can find me on Blue Sky in particular. Also, still in Instagram. Joseph Grimshaw, my handle there. I also have my weekly blog letter called Finish Your Monsters. I'd love to get more subscribers, so if you're interested in checking that out, each week I talk a little bit about something going on in my life and my creative adventures and reflecting on how to stay positive and keep yourself moving toward whatever creative or personal goals you have. So that's called Finish Your Monsters. It'll pop right up if you Google Finish Your Monsters, Joseph Scrimshaw.
There you go. That is it. All right. More celebration stuff. Who knows if something huge drops? Maybe we'll pop back on. But live Monday, 10 a.m. Pacific, not Central, Pacific, even if our heart's in Central time zones. We'll be there. See you soon. This was Force Center.